all over the world.
Okay.
Yes. Right. Good evening, authority members. I want to call to order the Thursday, June 13, 2024, Northern Virginia Transportation Authority meeting. I would like to, Ms. Henderson, if you would do a roll call, I appreciate it.
Chair Randall,
I am here.
Vice Chair Snyder,
Here, if permitted virtually.
You're here, we can hear you.
Chairman McKay,
Here.
Chair Jefferson. Here. Board Member DeFerrante,
Here.
Mayor Wilson.
Here.
Mayor Davis Schumber. Here. Mayor Rochelle,
Here.
Delegate Delaney. Here. Delegate Torian,
Here,
Okay, there you are. Good.
Ms. Hines. Here. Mr. Cole,
Here.
Mayor Olem,
Here.
Mr. Cutler,
Here.
Mr. Horsley.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Authority members, Mr. Snyder is actually out of the country and joining us virtually and has requested that we do the action items first tonight. So what I'm gonna do is we'll do the consent agenda, and then we will go into the action items, and then after that, we'll go back and do the presentations, and so that he can stay with us while doing the action items, because we feel so bad that he can't be here and he's forced to be in Paris. So we will do the consent agenda first. The consent agenda is as follows: approval of the May 9th, 2024 meeting summary minutes, approval of the City of Fairfax Old Lee Highway multimodal improvements phase 1 tender project agreement SPA 2013-48-1. Approve the City of Fairfax Government Center Parkway Extension Standard Project Agreement SPA 2020-307-1. Approval of the endorsement for the Prince William County's Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Program is a grant application. Adoption of resolution to support for smart scale applications from the Northern Virginia jurisdictions. And the approval of the website modernization contract award. That is the consent agenda. I will make a motion to move the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made, seconded by Mr. McKay. Is there discussion on the consent agenda? Mr. Snyder, since I can't see you, I asked you first, we discuss the consent agenda.
I do.
Thank you. That was a little.
Vote to accept.
Mr. Torian, any discussion on the consent agenda?
Yes, I vote to accept.
I'm fine, thank you.
Anybody else? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That motion passed unanimously for members who are present, I think, for all members present. All members are present.
Except Senator Boyce.
Except Ms. Boyce, so that is correct. Thank you. So the action items, we'll go through the action items. And so we can get Mr. Snyder off the phone. Ms. Backen, would you like to introduce, action item number 10?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm actually going to turn this over to Mr. Cutler. We received a letter from VDOT requesting NDTA endorsement of the I-495 Southside Express Lanes project for inclusion in the Visualize 2050 plan update, and really is for air quality conformity determination. At last month's Transportation Planning Board meeting, the action to include this project as part of the air quality conformity determination was deferred. The TPB will convene next week to take action on this. So having said that, I will turn it over to Mr. Cutler.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Beckman. On behalf of VDOT, as you know, we have a 94-mile express lane network that has been quite successful in Northern Virginia. It provides all sorts of mobility options, including encouragement of HOV3. It provides opportunities for buses and is expanding our express bus network across the region. And then obviously toll facilities as well. It's managed, it provides reliable trips. And with our concessionaire agreements, we're often in a position where we're able to receive monies on an annual basis that we can then, as a region, make decisions, as a the Virginia region make decisions to, as to how that money would be spent to support transit interests across Northern Virginia. This would be an extension of the network, an additional 11 miles. We think it provides tremendous benefits to the region, and we would like to invite Maryland and Prince George's County into this network and receive the benefits that it provides. Now, take any questions anyone has.
Does anyone have any questions?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Cutler, if I can, you guys received a letter from WMATA at the end of May with a bunch of questions on this project.
Yes.
Has there been answers prepared on those questions?
Yes, so we met with Metro. We had a very good conversation with their leadership team. And we had just prepared written responses as well. We can make that available. Okay.
All right, can you at least talk at a high level on the, I mean, I'll be candid, you know, the city of Alexandria obviously has a long history related to this bridge and spent a good many years when I was in high school litigating related to this bridge and I think one of the areas that we focused on certainly was the inclusion of transit in the future of this bridge.
That's what you did in high school?
That's what I didn't do. I did talk to a few of those members about what happened 25 years ago, a little while ago, but I guess the obviously our chief concern, the concern that we put in writing back in October was not wanting to do anything that would preclude transit in the future, and also not wanting to create any poison pills, if you will, financial poison pills in the future that would preclude transit, even if there's language and agreements and things like that that would allow for it. So I guess if you could speak to that, at least at a high level.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll just say I was actually a technical lead for Fairfax County during the time of the planning and design of the Wilson Bridge. So I am familiar with the regional agreement that and the vision that ultimately this bridge will support a combination of HOV, bus transit, and or rail. The Commonwealth continues to have that vision, support that vision. The bridge was built in a manner that provides the space across the bridge deck. Actually, take a glance at Google Maps, you can see some of that space. It's also strong enough to be able to handle Metro Rail. And so we do, our intention is to work towards that ultimately, supporting rail across the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. In the meantime, and that might be several decades away. In the meantime, we'd like to maximize this important asset by using the space that's available. With these possibly 2 express lanes in each direction. Our NEPA document, which is a federal document, would record our commitment to ultimately change that partially into Metro Rail in the future. As would our commissioner has already written a letter, the TPB motion that is going to be considered next Thursday at COG also includes that commitment. And then should we have a concessionaire agreement, as we do on many of these P3s, we would write it in and we would actually have it up during the time of competition among prospective concessionaires, help them understand that there will be a time where we will transition, again, under a certain concept of 2 lanes in each direction, we'll transition to 1 lane in each direction, express lane, and Metro Rail will take up that other space. There's a way to also fit all of that. We've already done the basic measurements there, and we know that this all fits, and it's also constructed. So, but our commitment is there to allow the transition to Metro Rail.
Okay, yeah, if I can, and then actually go for it, Chairman.
Well, on this issue, I appreciate that clarity. I look at the transit issue a little bit differently than the mayor of Alexandria does, and that today, as we sit here, there's absolutely zero transit benefit in this corridor of interstate. Zero now. So if we were to endorse this project, we would be putting this segment of interstate in the same position as every other segment of interstate in Northern Virginia, which is express lanes, which drive carpools and allow buses to get into the express lanes and get people to where they're going quicker. And I look at it, the transit component is different. I was there the day this project opened. And I remember quite vividly Senator John Warner at the time and his Model T, and saying literally how happy he was that this bridge would have transit on it one day. Transit, not necessarily rail, but transit. And to me, the best path of building support for rail is to establish a robust transit network. That is what's lacking in this segment of interstate. And I would go a step further, and I may have said this in this group before at risk of getting myself in trouble, which I no longer am concerned about. This is a very serious equity piece for us in Northern Virginia. We talk a lot about equity. Let me be perfectly clear with everyone in this room. This segment of interstate between Springfield and the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, and by extension into Prince George's County, was deliberately omitted from the Beltway Express Lanes project, because at that time, the people building the express lanes did not think there was enough money in that section of Northern Virginia to support the economics of the express lanes. And so this part of Fairfax County was left out of any benefit of express lanes construction, therefore leaving people who rely on buses with no improvement to bus routing through that segment of interstate, competing with regular traffic. For those areas just off of the interstate boundaries, we have some of the worst air quality ratings in Fairfax County and health outcomes because of congestion, lack of green space, and lack of robust transit. And so to me, from an equity standpoint, this is a no-brainer to build a transit network that can support future rail extension. If we are proponents of Metro Rail, as I am, the best way to get Metro Rail on the bridge sooner is to establish a robust transit network. What we have right now is right-of-way that is there, that frustratingly to the traveling public in this segment is not being utilized at all. And to me, I think this is a great opportunity to connect the network of express lanes to the, how many miles did you say, Bill, at the beginning?
94 miles exists today. This would be an 11-mile extension.
11-mile extension. And then lastly, the number one problem in transportation in Fairfax County today is the American Legion Bridge. And if we don't advance this project to the next level of analysis, we are heading rapidly towards that same condition at the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. Only worse because the public, through a federal government earmark, has made massive investment in this bridge to make it work already. It's not like the American Legion Bridge, which is literally falling down. This is one where the bridge was fixed first. The vision for the right-of-way was put in first to support transit. And we have an opportunity to do that here today. So I'm emphatically in support of this. I know there are some concerns about future Metro Rail extension. I think the law literally prohibits you from putting this in place and prohibiting down the road a Metro Rail extension. And so I would wholeheartedly hope that this authority supports this project. And I know we're going to have further discussion on it, but for the purposes of facilitating that discussion, I would move approval of.
Before you do that, I need to ask Mr. Snyder if he has anything he'd like to say.
Sure. Thanks, Madam Chair. My question to Mr. Cutler, can you tell us more about the discussion with Metro? You said that you met. Metro, I think, raised a lot of technical issues, that it needs more than one lane for rail, various ramps and extensions. Can you tell me more, and will there be more discussions between now and the TPB meeting?
So I don't want to speak for Metro, but I can just share that, yes, there were many technical questions. We provided assurance in terms of the ability to fit in both the express lanes concept and the combination of Metro Rail and the single express lane in each direction. We had the ability to shift around some of those lanes, particularly during construction, to provide the space that's necessary. Please remember that we widened I-66, a portion of 66 inside the Beltway, right up against the Metro rail there. So it's possible to construct one next to the other and still have active traffic nearby. So we provided them quite a lot of detailed assurances, as well as what I just described as 4 different ways that we're codifying our commitment to support Metro Rail in the long term. We also talked about different things of, the not to preclude, but we want to do a little bit more than not to preclude. If we're going to put a ramp somewhere, we want to make sure that that ramp isn't going to have to be taken down in the future. Some of this is in the future design process that we're not quite there yet. This is just, we're still early in the process, but we will be working with Metro throughout the continuation of the project, as well as with all of our local partners, both in Virginia and in Maryland, through the public involvement process as well.
Thank you. So I think any other discussion, can we have discussion inside the motion?
Sure.
Okay, Mr. McKay has put a motion on the table.
Yeah, let me reiterate it just to make sure it's proper. I move authority approval of the letter of endorsement for the Virginia Department of Transportation and VDOT's I-495 Southside Express Lanes SEL project for inclusion in the visualized 2050 plan update and FY 2026 to 29 TIP.
And that's the motion. I will second that motion. Especially for purposes of discussion. So we're now inside the motion, so discussion inside the motion. Mr. Wilson, you have something?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think my friend Chairman McKay implies a level of certainty on the design process that is nowhere near concluded, and I think that's the concern that I think we have, is that you're ascribing a set of conditions that give you the comfort to believe it would not preclude the concerns that we have, and I think, as Mr. Cutler just said, we're nowhere near that conclusion. And so I think, as you and I have talked about as it relates to the possible continuation of transit that you are initiating on Route 1 into the city of Alexandria, the transition of use in right of way from one use to another is sometimes difficult. The most difficult transportation decisions we've had in the city of Alexandria always involve the transition of right of way from one use to another. And so while you can have all the legal protections in the books, all the language in a concessionaire's agreement that says that this transition is possible, when it comes to the reality of doing that, I think we have concerns that this arrangement, which we still don't have a lot of answers on, I think, as we've just discussed, will create a really strong barrier against that happening. And so I think that's the concern that we have. I think WMATA laid out some questions. I would love to see the answers to that. You say you have those in writing. If we can get those, that would be excellent. I think those are some of the same questions that we raised in our letter in October of last year, and I think that's ultimately what we want to get comfort on before we're in a place that we could bless this project. So once the right of way is gone, it's gone forever.
Ms. Beckman, how time sensitive is this matter?
So the TPB meeting is next Thursday.
So very, okay, all right.
And to that point, I thought I was clear on this. Let me make it very clear. Fairfax County's position is we support rail on this bridge. To me, that's not what the question is. The question is, how do you cement ridership for rail in the future in a corridor? I think every corridor, we have Metro right now, we had robust bus transportation occurring in those corridors. First, to build ridership, to justify building the transit connection in the future, the rail transit connection in the future. And secondly, let me ask for the technical explanation of what TPB is doing. because I think people have misconceived this, that TPB is approving construction of this project. And that is not at all technically what they're doing. And so if we do not include this project at TPB for inclusion for analysis, we are killing it. By putting it in the TPB package, we are not approving it. And so help Bill explain to us technically, again, the process by which TPB is looking at this and what the consequences are of inclusion and not inclusion and what it is we're actually approving here.
Right, so,
Yeah,
so so what's happening is TPB is updating their constrained long-range plan for our metropolitan region. It's a titled Vision 2050. And for projects to be included in the air quality conformity analysis, they must be in this plan. If they are not, then it will possibly be another 5 years, which puts us much farther away from being able to implement what we see right now as potentially a 6 to 7 year, 6 to 7 years away from being able to have bus transit on express lane.
and if it's 5 years, it'll come back in its current form in 5 years.
That would
So
be
we
our
lost 5
intention.
years and
We would
it would,
just
we
lose-
lost 5
lose
years and it
another
wouldn't
5
have.
years. On the other hand, if it goes in, as Mr. Chairman McKay said, this is not a approval of construction. We are not prepared to go out and start constructing anything. We have a project development process that we still have to go through. It includes public involvement. We have more analysis to do, more design to do, iterations of that design that address some of the concerns stated earlier. And as that process continues, we'll find that sweet spot that satisfies the concerns of so many, and then ultimately gets us the approval, the position to be able to approve the project for construction in the future. But today and next week is not vote for construction to get started, but it is a vote for what I just described, so that we can continue the process.
And if it came back in 5 years, we would be in the same place 5 years from now.
We would be in the same place, except I would also say we would have traffic numbers that are 5 years bigger. Because we live in such a great community that more people want to come here, live here, work here.
Yeah.
And we'll be that much farther behind.
Right. Other questions? Mr. Snyder, do you have any questions on the, inside the motion?
Yeah, I guess I really want to see more of the details of the discussion with Metro before I'm prepared to support this, and I hope we can see them between now and the TPB action. So I'm probably not gonna support this motion tonight. Probably abstain from it because I really would much appreciate more details, and I'm very hopeful that we can get this done by next Thursday. This.
But this vote still has to happen one way or the other right now, because we can't, otherwise I would be happy to table this if TPB was meeting next month, so we have time to get that information, but we don't have that time, so it's either a yay or nay or abstention, because I understand and I understand the request. But I don't think that's an option right now. Am I incorrect on that?
Yes, ma'am. I will say that we have already submitted our responses to Metro, and we have submitted them to the TPB, who distributes them out to TPB members. So that product is already there. It's just a matter of me getting them to the right in baskets.
If you send it to me, I'll make sure.
Yeah, that doesn't change the vote right now.
For right now, it's not
It doesn't change the vote right now, yeah.
But one thing that might help the vote right now is you've seen the response. Is there anything that Metro has raised that you feel like cannot be adequately addressed in responding to their letter?
Well, again, I'm speaking for me, not for Metro.
Right, from
I
your
feel,
perspective.
from my perspective, I believe we're able to adequately answer all Metro's questions.
So do you believe there was anything Metro presented to you that cannot be successfully resolved?
Yeah.
Because if there was, I was gonna ask explicitly what that was. Madam Chair?
Yes.
So, I find myself in the position of agreeing with everything that's been said, and your responses on the legality persuasive to me. I'm not sure, I do think Mayor Wilson's got some reasonable questions. The history of switching to my impressions, primarily out of Austin, but in a lot of different places, is that it's not, can you speak to the practicality concern that he's raised a little bit? Keeping in mind it's to some degree speculation, but I was thinking as I was driving over here, what about like if you have a concessionary agreement that lasts right up until the moment where you try to switch, the momentum will be really difficult. And so is there a way you can speak a little bit to his concerns?
So I'd envision that the concessionaire agreement would be potentially for a long term with the vision on a long term for a single lane in each direction for this concept. Somewhere within that time frame will be a requirement that an initial 2 lanes in each direction would be transitioned to 1 lane. There would be, the commissioners made a commitment, there would be no additional cost to Metro beyond what, if Metro was gonna go out there today and build it. In other words, the concessionaire or the agent VDOT would be working to have the cost, that transition to get down to 1 lane, slide them over. That would be borne by the department / concessionaire. That's the intention.
Yeah.
So that Metro does not include an additional cost to get a lane out. So if that's hopefully part of the question, I think.
Sure, it seems like the answers to Metro, I'm in a space where I'm going to be supportive of this, but the answers to Metro would be helpful. And, you know, if there are practical ways between now and next Thursday to address things, that could seem to me a reasonable.
I would also just say that if there's anything that does come up, we still have several years in the process.
Yeah.
If there is a deal killer along the way, then it will come up and we will
Yeah, and
address it then.
I agree with that. And I think both the chair and Chairman McKay have both made that point. It's part of
So
why I'm
let
inclined to
me
support it.
let me do this like this. Let's actually make Robert's rules our friend right now. I hear people who don't feel comfortable voting and may want to abstain. There's no issue with abstaining on a vote. If you vote on the prevailing side of a vote, or if you abstain on a vote and you want to go back and revisit it so you can add your name to a vote later on, you can. If you vote on the side of the vote that's not prevailing, you cannot come back anymore and do anything with that. And so if we have authority colleagues who are just not ready to do this yet, for whatever reason, they can abstain the vote. And then if they'd like me to put this back on the agenda, just so they can either make a vote yay or nay, and so that vote is recorded, they can do that as well. I would do that for the first time, probably for me, by asking for a roll call vote for this body. So people that want to abstain can clearly abstain. And then after receiving the information that they want to receive, not so much what would happen to TPB, because that's not really the question. But once they have time to look at the information they receive, they can come back and ask me next time for the purposes of them being on the prevailing side, a yay or a nay. They can do that next time. But right now, since you can't get the information you want before Thursday, we do have to take a vote. There is a motion on the table. That motion cannot be tabled or should not be tabled because we have a TPB meeting on Thursday. Yes.
Madam Chair, you know, I share the same concerns that Mayor Wilson and others do about Metro. So if it's the wishes of the commission, I would be happy, or the authority, I would be happy to add a paragraph to this letter that says NVTA is aware.
To the motion, you
of-
mean?
Yes, NVTA is aware of the letter of concerns that Metro has submitted and expects that those issues will be addressed by VDOT. That way we're not acting like we're acting on this letter absent the knowledge that there is a VDOT letter that is submitted, but we don't have the answers to that. I think we can acknowledge in our letter that we are aware of it. We support the letter that's been submitted, and we expect to receive answers to that letter from VDOT. And at least that puts a marker in the letter makes VDOT and the TPB aware that the authority understands that there are issues that will not have brought forward, but given the timing of this, we're not able to go through this.
And before I go to the authority members to ask about that, let me ask the council, does that sound like something that's? Is that the statement that like that be acceptable?
Just to add it to the motion, to ask to the letter.
That's the motion. It'd be to the motion.
It could be to the motion, but my purpose of suggesting it in the first place would be to add something to the letter as well, consistent.
I mean, I think you're just kind of edging the approval, like qualifying.
Mr. McKay, Mr. Snyder, yeah.
Not sure. Can I just clarify? This is just a letter to the TPB saying we support them including this, right? So, I mean, not trying to diminish our significance here, but TPB is going to consider this whether we send a letter or not. And notwithstanding Jeff's amendments, they may not care that we add a paragraph or not. So I would suggest that we
Take a vote, that's what you're saying.
to take a vote if we need to. I mean, it's not
We have to take a vote, there's a motion.
we don't have.
No, we're gonna take a vote.
I'm saying we're going to take a vote. Let's just take a vote. It doesn't, like, this is not a required letter as I understand it, right? So it's not like we're meeting some required MBTA input on this process. We are offering input of MBTA.
So
So
we're
and then
sending
people
them,
disagree with it, that's fine. That's why we have a vote.
I would say we're sending the position of MBTA, so I would say that, yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. But
We
I mean,
all-
we all, I guess the other point to note, right, is we all have representatives on TPD who will be the actual people voting on this matter.
Yeah.
And Alexander's representative will be voting.
I'm gonna call this question and do a roll call vote, Ms. Anderson, we do a roll call vote, please.
Yes, ma'am. Chair Randall,
Yes.
Vice Chair Snyder,
Abstain.
Chairman McKay,
Aye.
Chair Jefferson,
Aye.
Board Member DeFerrante,
Aye.
Mayor Wilson,
Abstain.
Mayor David Schumber,
Yes.
Mayor Rochelle,
Yes.
Mayor Reed,
Aye.
Delegate Delaney. Aye. Delegate Torian.
Aye.
Ms. Hines. Aye. Mr. Cole,
Aye.
Mayor Olem.
I'm the non-voting member, but I'll say aye. Not voting. Good try.
You have 12 yeses and two abstentions.
So that's a 12-1 vote with one member not being, with one voting member not being in the room today. So we have Mayor Wilson and Mayor Snyder who have abstained, and Senator Boyd goes not in the room. So thank you very much. Move on. All right, we'll move on to item number 11, Ms. Blackman.
So, Madam Chair, as we have previously discussed, we were approached by the city of Alexandria in Arlington County to submit a smart scale application, not only on behalf of the two localities, but on behalf of the region. The project will construct safety improvements to the 395 Shirlington Rotary Interchange in Arlington County and the city of Alexandria, and to the interchange of 395 at South Glebe Road in Arlington County. It will address several things, congestion issues, improve operations. There's a high crash frequency at the location, and improve substandard or missing pedestrian and bicycle facilities. I will note, if you approve staff submitting this application on behalf of the two localities, this will be our second smart scale application that we have submitted on behalf of the region.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
I move the authority approval of the attached resolution 24-02 in support of the I-385 Shirlington Rotary and South Believe Interchange Improvements Projects and authorize its chief executive officer to submit the project to the Commonwealth Virginia Smart Scale Prioritization Process.
Motion made, and seconded by Mr. Dupree. I assume discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? That motion will pass unanimously, so it'll be 14-01. With Mr. Bushman not being here. Item number 12, please. Mr. Lundy.
Thank you, Chair. This is the adoption of the regional revenue projections for 25 through 29. We are adding fiscal 28 and 29 to the projections. We do this every 2 years in advance of the 2-year update of the 6-year program. What's laid out in front of you is the full revenues. It's not the 30-70 split, it's 100%. The Finance Committee reviewed these projections in May and unanimously recommended your adoption of them. We do have just some highlights on the process. We do consider a recession as a probability or possibility in this time period, and that is, put into the projections. The projections are made to, their number one priority is to preserve the funding for the projects that you've already adopted. You've adopted projects through fiscal 27. And these projections validate that we will be able to make those. We still have a lot of risk mitigation that's in here as well to protect that project funding that has already been established. And with that, I'd be happy to reply.
The projections assumes a shallow recession,
Fairly shallow, but
fairly shallow recession. Yeah. I'm taking that, that's not happening at all, but okay. It's okay. Discussion, any other questions, Mr. Long? No, I will make a motion I move the authority, actually, Ms. Bishop, this is your committee, would you like to make a motion, I'm sorry.
I move authority adoption of the proposed FY 25 to FY 29 revenue projections presented in table 1 below.
I will second that motion. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion will pass 14-01. And our last action item, the Mr. Snyder can go to bed, is action item number 13.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Randall. This item was also approved for recommendation by the Finance Committee at their May meeting. Basically, what this does is it takes the revenue estimates that you just approved and goes through a 14-step calculation to turn them into pay-go. So these numbers are 70% of the revenue that estimates that you just reviewed. The numbers in there that take us from the revenue estimate to the pay-go, we have to make projections for things like the operating budget, transfer, and certain other assumptions. Those are not embedded. Those actually get approved during the annual budget cycles. So, but what this does do is give us the $696.3 million, which has been the working assumption for what will be available for the fiscal 28, 29, 6-year program update. And with that, I'd be happy to reply to any questions.
Any questions from anyone? Ms. Rachel, I'll go back to you for chair of the Finance Committee for a motion.
Yes, ma'am. I move authority adoption of the pay-go funding recommendations detailed in table 1 below.
That motion was seconded by Mr. Rente. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion was passed 14-01 as well. And that is all of our action items for this evening. Mr. Snyder, are you gonna hang with us? What you doing, sir?
I'll hang with you, but I'll also do a favor of getting off video.
Less wine.
Oh, okay.
He's going slow.
Right there, it's all right there. Then we're going to go to our discussion, actually the information item, before discussion item, and it's the travel trends update, but actually, I'm looking forward to seeing this, and so.
Here, if I could, do you want to do the presentation or the PDPVRT? and then go back to the discussion, your prerogative.
Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Which is item 3.
Chair Randall, members of the authority, I'm very happy to be here with you this evening with some experts from our consultant team to talk to you about the preliminary deployment plan for a bus rapid transit system for Northern Virginia. Apologies for the alphabet soup, but we've abbreviated this project to be referred to as PDP BRT. That itself is a huge mouthful, so for this evening, I'm going to refer to it as PDP. I apologise that is a bit confusing with CTB and TPP. And I've also picked up at stage something which also has the acronym PDP. With that aside, I hope I don't confuse you when I say PDP. Next slide, please. So the overarching purpose for this session tonight, and also a part 2 of this session at your meeting next month, we want to share with you some findings from recent community engagement activities over the course of the 2 meetings, and also share with you what we've learned so far from our early analytical work for the PDP. You will see in the 3rd main bullet, we're seeking your feedback and guidance at this very important stage of the work. And there are 4 suggested questions there. That's not a test. We won't be going through all of these tonight, if any. But I wanted to flag them at the beginning of this presentation. And I'll do it again at the presentation of your July meeting. But this is really important to give some thought to us before the end of your this session at the July meeting. So we want to cover what success would look like, what outcomes would you like to see from a BRT system, what deployment challenges we may, or you consider we should anticipate as part of our analytical work, what factors may influence the phasing of incremental BRT deployments, and are there any complementary, i.e. non-infrastructure approaches we should consider that will reduce dependency on driving alongside a regional BRT system. So these are the areas we'd like feedback on, but we have a brief presentation we're going to run through. If we go to the next slide, please. So between the 2 work sessions, we have, you see here, there's some specific things you want to cover tonight, and then again in July there are some similar but slightly different things. We'll have more information for you at the July meeting. It's not available tonight. But for this evening, we want to go through a focus group summary and other engagement activities, and then a peer review of other BRT systems around North America and best practices that have been learned from that peer review. And I've got Mr. Puss and Mr. Muller here this evening to walk you through that in just a moment. They're members of the Cambridge Systematics team, which is the consultant for MBTA for this work, and is also the consultant for Transaction, the 6-year program as well. Next slide, please. And next slide. So you see here, some of you probably heard me say this before, but no apologies, I'm going to say it again. Our philosophy, think big, start small, build momentum. That's the way we have to approach this. The think big part is really, it has already been mostly been done when you adopted Transaction in December of 2022. That includes a vision and goals for the region. And that update to Transaction included a host of projects, including multiple bus rapid transit and high capacity transit projects, which are shown in the graphic, which you won't be able to see the detail of to the left. Start small. $500 million isn't starting small, but relative to what's in Transaction, it is relatively small. $500 million almost is what the authority has already invested in the 5 BRT lines that are in Northern Virginia. Only one of those is operating, the rest are in various stages of planning. But you have invested in all 5 of those BRT projects that are underway currently. And then build the momentum. That's where the PDP comes in. This will help shape the region's thinking on a connected and synergistic BRT system. Next slide, please. We see, and this is what we found as we went through transaction, that BRT is something that can provide meaningful new travel options that will reduce or, perhaps in my most optimistic moments, reverse our dependency on driving, particularly driving alone. I think you all agree with that, certainly embedded in the approaches we've been adopting over the years. We want to, using the PDP, help you, our member jurisdictions, our regional agency partners to prepare for future 6-year program BRT-related funding requests that will lead to an incremental deployment of BRT across the region, all the while keeping that think big vision in mind. And we want to help protect those investments that NBTA has already been made by ensuring that future investments in BRT will fit together with those that have come before, so that it does actually truly grow into a system. Next slide, please. You've also heard me say this before. Coordination and collaboration is key. My middle name is collaboration. I promised this to you over the last year. I believe I am delivering on my promise to you. But it's really important that our localities and agencies focus on what you do best, and that NBTA focuses on what it does best. And it's very complementary when we work that way together. The major focal point at the staff level for coordination and collaboration is the BRT Planning Working Group, which we established some years ago now when we were developing transaction. And I'd like to mention that the working group met on June 4th, just over a week ago. And once again, we had 30, 40 people attend and stay for virtually all the 90 minutes of the meeting, demonstrating the interest not just within this region, but also from our partners across the river, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, District of Columbia, and also obviously our regional partners, state partners.
Yeah, you mute.
And also our regional partners such as VDOT, DRPT, NBTC, WMATA, BRE, and others. I'd also say that the consultant team, the Cambridge System Ethics consultant team, is very central to this work. It is also central to the work that NBTC is doing and that WMATA is doing on this topic at the moment. So not only do you have staff collaborating, you have a consultant team which is capturing intellectual capital across all of these projects. Coming back to that June 4th working group meeting, we had at our invitation presentations from NBTC staff on the Regional Transit Analysis Initiative, which is wrapping up, I believe, in the near future, and also from WMATA on the Better Bus Analysis. That is what we mean by collaboration, and the outputs from those initiatives will become the inputs to this. Next slide, please. So this 2-part work session is a critical milestone for us as we move from phase 1 to phase 2, as shown in the timeline here. And your feedback and guidance is requested and needed. I'd also say during phase 3, future public engagement, we will also come back if we are able to and have another work session with authority members, giving you sharing the information that we learned during the analysis stage. Slide, please. So I'm going to turn over here to the first of my 2 colleagues. To my left is Kevin Pullis. Mr. Pullis works for WBA Research, which is a Prince George's County-based national research firm specializing in transportation research. Mr. Pullis oversees WBA's transportation research and has more than 25 years of experience in this field. He has conducted research for most transportation agencies in this region, including us, for the Fairfax Connector, Loudoun County Transit, VDOT, the Commission, WMATA, Maryland DOT, and the Maryland Transit Administration. So very well versed in this region. Mr. Willis, take it away. Next slide, please.
All right, as some of you may be aware, we started our data collection and engagement efforts recently with a round of focus groups among Northern Virginia residents. We included those who use public transportation in the area and those who don't, which we categorize as riders and non-riders. While not projectable to the entire region, focus groups are a great way to do a deep dive into people's attitudes and what's behind those attitudes. It gives us a deeper understanding that can be used to inform many things, including the development of a survey that we're currently fielding. Over 4 focus groups, we discussed transportation in the area in general, more specifically delved into their awareness and familiarity with bus rapid transit, as well as the priorities and needs for improving transportation systems in Northern Virginia. From these focus groups, there were 4 key findings that we want to share with you this evening. The first is that congestion is consistently seen as a top issue, surprise, and needs to be addressed in Northern Virginia. During BRT development, how the BRT lines will address congestion needs to be top of mind. Lines and networks should focus first on connecting areas of Northern Virginia to one another rather than just feeding people directly into DC. And we should know, however, that there's still little awareness of BRT and what the term BRT means. However, with that, I want to point out there is in fact an appetite for BRT, even if people don't realize it yet. I'll talk about this a little bit more in a few slides. Next slide. Participants realize that most of their pain points with transportation in Northern Virginia can be attributed to congestion. And for this reason, they consider it a top priority that BRT would help address congestion. This also means they want to see BRT implemented in areas first where congestion is greatest. Next slide. Then in addition to alleviating congestion being a primary criteria on where to focus BRT efforts, participants had strong opinions on how these lines would be planned and where they would take or connect them. We're some folks that feel they have plenty of ways between Metro Rail, VRE, and other local Northern Virginia operators for them to get into DC. However, what they would like to see are more interconnectedness across Northern Virginia. We heard from them that shuttling people to DC via BRT would simply be redundant to what current service already provides. And we heard this from non-riders and riders alike. This was a common theme, and that there are a lot of transit offerings in the area currently, and any new service should only add to or augment current service, not just create redundancies. But note that among all these great thoughts and opinions we heard, that there was still an underlying unfamiliarity with BRT. Almost no one knew what the term bus rapid transit was. Or still, many of them thought they did, but what they described was something else. When we asked participants what they thought BRT referred to before giving them a description, the vast majority had no idea what BRT was, and even when they guessed, often incorrectly believed that it was an express bus service or just another local bus route. After the concept was defined for them, however, people were open to the idea of BRT, particularly among current transit users, though still questioning its efficacy given the current level of congestion in the area. So there is going to be a level of skepticism that comes with it. With that, there is still an appetite for it, and not only among riders, but among non-riders as well. At the start of some of the groups, even before mentioning the idea of BRT, some participants discussed how they would like to see transit systems in the area that are more like rail, where there's frequent service, multiple hubs, and distinct and simple lines going from point A to point B. And common priorities from the focus groups. Next slide. Common priority from the focus groups included all-day service as opposed to just focusing in on peak period. Integrations with and connections to other regional transit systems. That includes connecting to Metro Rail, Metro Bus, and other area systems. Using fare media that is supported by the larger regional network, such as Smart Trip, to ensure that riders don't have to navigate multiple different fare systems. And knowing that Northern Virginia is constantly growing, the BRT system should be planned to not only meet current needs, which can be quickly outgrown, but also to accommodate the future needs and growth of the region. And David's gonna get into these points in just a little bit. Next slide. With these findings, we moved on to a quantitative survey that's available currently both online and engagement events throughout the region. We began collecting data on May 20th. The survey is also available in Spanish and Korean as well as in English. And I'd like y'all to note that this QR code you see here is actually the active live QR code you'll see on all of our materials. With that, back to you, Keith.
Great, thank you. Just wanted to note in the second bullet there, you see the survey period ends tomorrow. Just joking. Such has been the volume of responses and the fact that the rate of responses is increasing, not reducing, as we approach the end of the survey period. I'd like to announce this evening that we are extending the survey period until June 23rd at 11:59 p.m. And we'll be launching a major campaign in the morning to make people aware of that fact. Next slide, please. I should also say, if you want to participate in the survey yourselves, there is a $50 gift card to one lucky person. We will not be drawing, one of these smart people will be doing. The engagement activities, we just briefly touched on these. Again, a bit of an update here. By now, we thought we would have held 10 pop-up events throughout the region. In fact, the number is 9 because we had really bad weather when we were due to go to one of the locations a couple of days ago. So we're taking advantage of the fact that because we're extending the survey period, we're going to add a replacement pop-up event on Saturday, June 22nd from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Giant store at Catoctin Circle Northeast in Leesburg. If anyone would like to join us there, we'd love to see you. And Mr. Cutler, I know, has already participated in one of our events, so there's a good example to follow. Next, I'd like to introduce David Miller. Mr. Miller is with Foursquare ITP. I think the ITP used to stand for Integrated Transportation Planning. It still does. Foursquare Integrated Transportation Planning. It's a woman-owned business, transportation planning firm headquartered in Washington, D.C. with over 60 professionals specializing in transportation planning, transit service planning, and transportation demand management. Mr. Miller is a certified professional transportation planner, or I hesitate to say this, PTP. He is the Chief Development Officer and a Senior Project Manager at Foursquare and has 25 years of diverse transportation planning experience. He specializes in corridor, regional, super regional, and statewide plans, and has a passion for bus priority and bus rapid transit, which is just as well project. Next slide, please. Actually, I think probably skip to the next one after that as well. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Keith. So one of the early tasks in this project is a peer review. Typically, you pick a handful of agencies or situations that are similar to you. We took a different approach by really throwing a very wide net, looking at agencies that have implemented BRT all across North America in a very wide variety of contexts. We also looked locally, both in terms of what's out there and what is planned. So the Metroway is a good example, the US 29 Flash in Montgomery County, the GRT Pulse in Richmond, which a picture was on one of the slides earlier. And we really wanted to take a deep dive into understanding what these peers' challenges and successes were, what they had learned from their systems, what was most applicable to Northern Virginia, and not looking at just one type of deployment, but all types of different systems that have been successful across the United States. So we really wanted to create this vision for BRT in Northern Virginia, looking at best practices in planning, operations, and implementation, but also finding out what densities support bus rapid transit in these other communities and what other types of supporting policies. So we actually analyzed all of the systems that we looked at the corridor level to understand what their actual mix of land uses was and what the density of people and jobs were. And keyed in on their strategies for maximizing ridership. What did they do to achieve that success, but while remaining cost efficient? So again, we looked at 7 local, either planned or in operation BRT. We looked at 15 other systems across North America, from coast to coast and also in the heartland. And to really, again, throw a wide net. Next slide. The first thing we looked at were the BRT operations, the actual deployment of the transit system and what made it successful. And what we found was it varies very widely from sort of enhanced bus that is branded differently than a local bus, all the way up to something like Metroway that operates in its own guideway and is intended to feel more like a train. And so there's a very wide spectrum. You want it to look and feel like light rail transit, but it's not. It doesn't have the same level of cost, and it has a lot more flexibility. So those are some of the key differences. What we found in the peer review matches very closely what we found in the focus groups, was that people want something that is fast and that is frequent and that's reliable alternative to driving in Northern Virginia. And they want it to connect them to other places in Northern Virginia, not just to DC. They feel like the commuter buses and the rail, the local bus systems are doing that pretty well. So how do you create that connective tissue in Northern Virginia to create that additional layer of transit service? Another key difference is that BRT stations are less closely spaced than local bus stops. Again, it's supposed to be more like rails. People are willing to walk and bike farther to get to those. And along those lines, that the supportive infrastructure around BRT needs to be improved so that because every trip starts and ends on 2 feet or 2 wheels. So there needs to be an investment in safety and in biking and walking along with bus rapid transit. Okay, so I want to just, one other thing is that it's really important that there be measures in place to ensure that the bus rapid transit is fast and reliable, what we call bus priority treatments. But you don't necessarily need a lot of right of way because a lot of the delay takes place at intersections. So you can do a lot with a little bit of space at intersections to really improve the bus operations. Next slide. In terms of density and land use, again, we want to have the right level of service in the right places. So we did a deep dive on all of these systems across North America to understand what levels of density of people and jobs were supportive of BRT in their context, and also the mix of land use, and also the policies that were supporting those BRT systems. And what we found is really along BRT corridors, you need a mix of residential, medium to high density residential. So you need a lot of people around the BRT. You need some office, you need some commercial and retail. It's all kind of in that medium density range or above. And it needs to be a mix. You can have residential kind of beyond the corridor. That's okay, single family residential. But along the corridor, you need to have a mix of medium density residential. And at the ends, you need to have really strong centers. So at the origin side, at the destination side, you need to have things like town centers, large educational campuses, medical campuses, other institutions, big job centers to really anchor both ends of that BRT. And the other thing we found was that connections to other forms of transit were really important, such as rail stations, transit centers, airports. And again, that's what we heard from the folks in the focus groups was make the system work better, connect to the other investments we've already made in transportation and make it easier to get around and within Northern Virginia. Next slide. What we heard about maximizing ridership, going back to the previous slide, was really do BRT where the land use and the zoning supports it, right? Now it's very flexible. There's a spectrum of BRT, so you don't need high density everywhere. But where you're going to see success is where there's medium or higher density, and there's also zoning that supports less parking, higher density, and a mixed type of land use. The other important thing is that if you have bus priority treatments out there to make the buses faster and reliable, you have to enforce them. If you don't, then you've kind of thrown away your investment. So it's absolutely critical. This is what DC is doing. This is what Montgomery County and Maryland is moving towards, is automated bus enforcement, cameras on the buses, make sure that those lanes that are dedicated to buses remain open for buses to use. I talked about the urban design, such as the pedestrian and bicycle improvements around the station. And also having an education campaign that starts early, which is part of what we're doing with this study through these focus groups and through these surveys and various videos and other social media that are going out on the website. Starting early, going through the process, and then continuing actually after the BRT is open. So don't just have a ribbon cutting and then start the service. You got to continue to educate folks and businesses and your stakeholders, keep beating that drum to ensure its success. So what we found from looking at the peers was that BRT really is capable of achieving and delivering everything that the folks in the focus groups asked for and said they were looking for in terms of travel in Northern Virginia. And it can provide that frictionless experience throughout Northern Virginia as part of a larger integrated transportation system. I think that's it.
So just to wrap up, there's a brief tease of what we'll be talking about in July, but more importantly, it's not us talking, it's you talking. So once again, the feedback and guidance, questions on that. I know time is very limited this evening, so I don't want to delay you all with going into any of this now in any detail at all. But if there's any initial feedback, we'll be happy to hear it. But if not, we'll certainly make time for that at the next meeting.
So I think the most obvious question is there integration right now between with this study finds, because of all the information, it's the information that we would have also received at the new DMV moves for the entire region. So there's an integration between what's happening here and what's happening with other organizations, WMATA, and the DMV move groups specifically.
That's a good question. We've been working with the BRT Planning Working Group for quite a few years now, and I think many of the organizations who are involved in DMV moves also have staff representation on that working group. Of course, the DMV moves initiative is only a month or so old, so I'm not sure to what extent the members of the task force know the details of what we're doing. Certainly the staff do, including Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and the district. But
I guess I think that this would be really helpful to move that group further along faster, because I do believe that everyone's kind of, the good news is everyone's rolling in the same direction.
yes,
Even if we're in different places, everyone's trying to get to the same direction. So this might be helpful information for them to have, for that group to have, of which all three of us are on that task force. It's not. You're in a different place, but it's not. It's the same goal.
And Madam Chair,
Which is good news.
yeah. And I will note the government partners group as part of DMV Moves meets on Monday, and we are represented on that group. I plan to share this information, and of course, the three of you can share it with your colleagues on the task force, but we do plan to share this information to prevent duplication
Sure,
and
absolutely.
make sure everyone
Is
is
the government
clear.
partnership also the CEO group, same
Yes.
thing? Okay,
Yes.
all right, that's what I thought, yeah. Other questions?
Hi, I'm I'm mindful of the time, but I'm not gonna be here next month. My time is up here, so the one question that I have related to the peer review that you all did is related to the conditions under which one adds bus rapid transit. So we can think now about places we want to connect to. Some of the roads that already exist where we could run transit can't be expanded. And one of the positions of the state has been, it's not true BRT unless you have a fully dedicated lane all the time. I've also seen studies that say there's a tipping point when your road gets to a certain level of congestion, it is actually possible to take a lane and put buses on it and improve all of the conditions for the flow of traffic. I think that that's a really important question for Northern Virginia, whether you're thinking about running through parts of Alexandria or how it's going to work in Manassas or some Leesburg or Percival or any place like that where we have existing conditions that we're not willing to rip up. How can we have a model that actually works for people that is respectful of these historic places. Or that takes existing right of way and is able to convert it. I mean, our conversation earlier about the bridge is on point too. But I just, if the only way we get to a BRT network is by adding lanes, we already know that gets unsafe for people at a certain point in time. We lived it on Route 1. So I really want, if I were gonna be here, that would be the thing I would be dogging. Tell us, what are those numbers? Where are those places? How do we test whether we can actually do that or not? Because like I said, we don't have, even MBTA doesn't have enough money to widen all these fork roads to make BRT work. So.
Okay, that was really important. Yes, sir.
Thank you. It is great to see the progress on this, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing kind of to Mary's point, how we get it to a place where it's facilitating a systems approach across jurisdictional lines. That is it. I mean, even for jurisdictions, we were able to work together with Arlington, but that was challenging.
It was painful.
It was challenging, and we're two jurisdictions that are
Challenging.
It was painful and challenging. It was all of the above. It was all of the above. And I think even two jurisdictions who have a similar mindset on these issues had a different approach on this. And we ended up in a good place, but it was hard. It was hard to get there. And so the one thing I wanted to just bookmark, if you could go back in the earlier slide, you talked about, and I guess this is coming from the feedback, and I just want to challenge an assumption here for a little bit. You talked about prioritizing connecting areas within Northern Virginia rather than feeding directly into DC. And I think that's probably a statement that's okay, but I don't want to lose sight of the possibility of additional connections into DC. And the only reason I say that is, we have a choke point that we're never going to be able to address without $30 billion, and that's the Roslyn Tunnel. And that is this is an effort to get me and Jeff back on the same page here. So this is one thing that Jeff and I are both negatively impacted. We look at those headways on the blue line in Fairfax County and Alexandria, and that's something we are unable to change without billions of dollars of investment that ain't coming anytime soon. And so we do also have a way Jeff's residents get out of Fairfax County is the 11Y Metro bus that goes up Washington Street, thankfully goes into the city of Alexandria. Most of his residents probably get off there, but some of them stay on and continue into Washington DC, and that route goes there. And so I think those are we still have opportunities, and that also provides optionality. When we had Metro work and Metro has challenges, those routes are jam packed. When we added shuttle service, it was duplicating those routes. And so I don't want to. Great cities have optionality in our transit systems, and we should not close that door. So.
I have a question on line 17 engagement activities. I just want to know the survey, if you can say anything about the results we've seen thus far. Has it been widespread across the region? Is it certain localities that you're seeing more responsive? Can you give us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that question. That is the only thing I'm looking at with respect to the online survey. What people are saying, that can wait until we close the door on that. But in terms of the response rate, we are monitoring the response rates by member jurisdiction, because we think it is very important to get a reasonably close match to the distribution of the population in the region, so that we know, there's no underrepresentation. I think it would be fair to say that a couple of things jump out. We are not as well represented in the outer jurisdictions as we would like, and we have been targeting some boosting promotions over the last week or so in Loudoun County and Prince William County, which also touches into Western Fairfax County, where we're we're underperforming, as it were, relative to population when we look at jurisdictions further east from there. So we are trying to boost those. The choice of Leesburg as the next pop-up event was deliberate because that does get into one of the areas where we have seen lower response. But I'm pleased to say that the response rates over the last week from the added jurisdictions have improved, and we will keep pushing to do our best to make sure we get good representation. I would say that even if the percentage coverage is lower, we are getting a good number of surveys completed in Prince William and Loudoun counties. And I think Manassas and Manassas Park have been doing really strong. I can't explain the reason why that is, but yeah, it is uppermost on our minds that we get as good a representation across the region as we possibly can.
One more time, where are Leesburg are gonna be?
Giant, Catoctin Circle.
Oh, okay. I know exactly where that's at. Yeah, that's.
That's probably about half a mile.
This is literally.
But it is on a Saturday, so.
Literally walkable. Yeah, I won't be around. I know exactly where you're at. Okay, anybody else? Did you get good notes on that? Wonderful, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're gonna go back to what I'm excited about. Travel trend updates.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the authority. So this is item number 14 in your meeting packet. Travel trends update in Northern Virginia. These updates, we are updating numbers with the first quarter of this calendar year, January to March. We will show 3 items. The first one of which is the electric school bus adoption rates, which relate to one of 3 core values in transaction, the sustainability initiatives. And also, we will cover our regular data items of highway traffic volumes and transit ridership. The first item, electric school bus. We will go to the chart real quick. So the first chart in your packet, in the memo, shows the blue numbers and green numbers. The green numbers are the updates for our region and our surrounding jurisdictions. Shows the rate of electric school buses per 1,000 students. If you can look at the chart, we have a substantial development for the Nova Public Schools, which is mostly due to a recent federal award from EPA, $16.6 million, that has bumped up this number. For the rest of the jurisdiction, there are no substantial changes within the Washington DC metro area, almost similar rates as we have watched before. The next chart, we will start looking at the traffic volume travel trends in the Nova area. Our data sources are permanent traffic counters from VDOT. We have looked at day of the week and also within a day, periods of the day changes or variations in travel demands. This first chart shows the day of the week. And as we can see from the chart, it appears Thursdays are the highest travel demand during the work week, with Sunday travel surpassing the pre-COVID numbers. And that's in the first quarter of this year. If you go to the second chart, we will look on Thursdays because Thursdays are the highest travel demands. During a day, variation by time periods. This is a trend that we've been watching since the pandemic started, that lower travel demands in the AM peak, gradually picking up from midday and congested PM peak periods. So in the first quarter, we can see PM peak have surpassed pre-COVID substantially, PM peak and evening travels. So we are seeing this continuation of the trends from pandemic. So these two charts on the highway traffic volumes. In the next, we will check transit ridership. Okay.
I'm confused over here.
Yeah.
Just get this straight.
Yeah.
So people are going, there's a lot of travel on Sundays. There's a lot of travel in the evening from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Is that what I'm hearing?
So VDOT shows couple 2 hours time interval. The evening period actually doesn't cover the entire evening. So PM peak 4 to 6 and 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. But it is spread towards the entire time period. And it is a comparison between 2024 and 2019.
These are interesting. Hey, go on.
Next chart. So transit ridership, as we've been watching, Dash has been performing steadily well above pre-COVID period in the first quarter, which is the yellow line. Just below the yellow line, the teal blue is Fairfax Connector. They experienced a sharp decline in the first quarter, and we believe that is due to the work stoppage or the strike that we experienced in the first quarter. And I would like to highlight a couple of other trends. One is in the first quarter, if you can actually see on this chart, most systems, they suffered some kind of a fallback between February and March, except Metro Rail. They are showing continued and sustained growth in the first quarter. Yeah. We haven't.
Is that yellow line again?
Yeah.
I always want to make sure we differentiate.
So look at the far right, that bluish tint shaded area, that's the first quarter. So all systems, they February is the highest number, and then they fell back to March, except Metro Rail. They are sustained. They are consistently high in the first quarter. We haven't figured out as exact cause for this, but from the last fall or the last summer, General Manager WMATA had been saying that increased services and also reduced fare may have been contributing to these upward trends in Metro Rail. That's all I have for today. So we will continue this tracking of numbers, and our next update will be in September. Madam Chair, that's all I have.
The amount of fun and interest we've had in these numbers. Like, you can see our live and our excited. You're way too excited about getting this.
Actually, come on.
Just one, back and forth, back and forth. It's like a half mile wide, so.
Pay attention to the money you've been handing us, because a lot of it's been going to help that system expand.
You have less money is what I.
No.
Any other questions? Any questions? Thank you very much. All right. We'll talk about the 6-year program, the public comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the authority. At your March 14 authority meeting, you approved restart the public engagement process for this program. The public comment period started on March 28 and ran through May 19. In between, at your May 9th authority meeting, you had a public hearing. You heard from 5 people on that night. So we had a very coordinated and a very hard effort to publicize the opportunity for comments. Over time, we have seen we built up our capability to do more communication. So we have been doing this a lot in this program. Last program also we did, but we did more publicizing this in this program through our website, social media platforms, newsletters, newspaper advertisements. You all, your staff, other agency, partner agency staff helped us spread the word. Thank you. There were various ways for people to comment. The primary one being an online form where they can choose projects and comment on that. All these graphics you saw were used for those publicity. This. So this chart that on the screen that you see here, that shows the trend of how much public comments and how many people were commenting throughout all the 6-year programs and the previous programs we had, starting from fiscal 2014 program. The rightmost part of the chart shows the average. So you can see that in the initial stage, the interest and the number of comments went up, peaking at the inaugural 6-year program. Obviously, we had 60 candidate projects there and almost 1.2 billion to spend. So that is natural to see that much comment from that particular program. After that, it started coming down. It doesn't mean, as I showed earlier, it doesn't mean any less effort from our side. In fact, we have been increasing our effort to publicize and give people the opportunity to comment. Next slide, please. That is a result of our effort this time. We received a total of 731 comments from 178 people. So obviously, many people have commented, made multiple comments or commented on multiple projects. It's stacked with the largest set of comments for a project to the least in that chart. More details are provided in the report that's in your package. Next slide, please. This map and the next map shows where these comments were coming from. This one particularly shows all those comments that were supportive of various projects. It's spread all across the region, but still you can see some areas where more people commented. So it's like some part of Arlington, Alexandria, City of Falls Church, City of Fairfax, and Manassas Park area. That's where a large number of comments came from. This is supporting various projects. Next one, please. This is from the other end where we received comments that were opposing certain projects. Again, spread across the region, not as spread as the previous one. Still, you see some concentration of certain areas from where these comments were coming. One thing I want to point out here is there were, in the previous slide, if you saw where we are showing comments by project, there were a couple of projects which received relatively large number of, compared to other projects, large number of opposing comments or opposition. Those projects, if you look through this and compare, you can see that the comments are not coming from people who live next to the project. It's coming from other areas. Where I wanted to point out, in the report, you can see that there were a series of comments that same comments we start seeing from different commentators. So it's probably, you have seen it in the past too. Some advocacy groups push out certain type of comments and that were coming from. That's one of the reasons. I would add that all these, the report is in your packet, it's already published on the website. The full set of raw comments, all 781 of them, that is also already published on our website. There were a set of comments that suggested some changes or some improvements to what they thought, what they think as improvements to the candidate projects. They would like to see additional features, maybe more sidewalks, more crosswalk, things like that. So all those comments are in that full list of comments that we have on the website. We request, we will work with your staff to encourage them to take a look at that and see if any of that can be incorporated into those projects.
So are you saying that the comments are coming from not people who may live in that area, but people who are traveling through that area?
That is possible,
okay.
Yes.
Right.
That's all I have.
I was asking that because Prince William County, Manassas Park actually has for their population a high number of comments. I think it's because actually just traveling through that area. Yeah. Right. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Can you help me a little bit with how the comments, and maybe this may be just first year, how the comments figure into the staff recommendations? Just as we had, we were not quite as the Manassas, but we did have quite a few comments on projects.
Yes. No, absolutely. Public comments in various committees and all. We already presented multiple components to this process.
And we always start with congestion reduction related to cost factor, because that's legally required to, we are legally required to give priority to that particular factor. So that's always been our starting point. All the documents, evaluation results that we published and shared with you, if you look at those charts, you will see the projects are ranked based on that particular factor. So that's the starting point. When we reach to a point where there are all other factors are equal, there are two projects, we have to pick only one, then definitely public comment becomes an important factor. In the past, people who have been, the members who have been here for long would remember that there were projects that received high level of support. At least one case where everyone remembers is Purcellville, which staff had already, Hillsborough, not Purcellville, sorry, Hillsborough, where staff had already looked at that and the project was ranked high already, but still there was a huge support for that project and authorities made sure that project is funded. On the other hand, if there were too many opposition, authority took a pause there and thought that what is the kind of opposition we are receiving? It looked like in certain projects, it looked like people needed more opportunity to look at this, look at the design, they wanted more opportunity to engage. So authority didn't fund the project or funded only the design part where jurisdictions could do that engagement and come back. So yes, it is an important factor.
Great. I think maybe I could follow up a little bit offline a little bit, just to sort of understand we're in a time of high cost escalation. And so I gather that there's has been a policy of your request for a full project. We saw significant cost escalation in the project. So I might follow up on that. I don't know if there's anything that you can say. I don't think that that's a formal policy. Just
Well, I think I know what you're getting at, Board Member DeFerrante. We don't have an official policy to come back and fully fund or put additional monies on a project that we already have monies on that we thought would fully fund the project. If that's what you're saying. But I know for CC to DCA, because there's been some conversation about that, that project did score 24 out of 24 for congestion reduction relative to cost. So even though it had a lot of positive comments and support, it puts us in a position of, because the law requires us to give priority to the projects that have the greatest level of congestion reduction relative to cost. If staff recommended that project, we would have been jumping over other projects that had better scores for that legal criteria. Now, we take public comment into consideration, even at the staff level. Sri mentioned, I don't think he noted the project, but 4 years ago, I believe, when we put funding on the W&O&D in Arlington County, we received a lot of negative comments for that project. And we read through the comments and really said, hey, is there a compromise that we can get to help try to get this project moving? Another example I will use, Richmond Highway BRT and the roadway widening. A lot of comments in support of the BRT and probably an equal number against the widening that was required to have the BRT run in the meeting. So while we do consider the public comments, we do have to weigh the other factors that's attributed to the public comments and to the project themselves, including, how the project performed, performance measures, the legal criteria.
Yeah, no, I'm good. That helps me in the public comment. I saw the scores, so I need to follow back up on that. And that sort of background and context is what I will do after this meeting, because I know that's just one project. So onward we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. All right, we're gonna go to the reports. Finance Committee report, Mayor Mitchell, do you have anything for us that we didn't do in the meeting today? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As a helpful reminder, the Finance Committee meets on the same evening as the authority. So tonight's 3 finance-related action items, which are the website modernization, the revenue estimates, and PAYGO, they will all be reviewed and discussed by the Finance Committee at our May meeting in preparation for tonight. The committee also reviewed the 3 regular monthly reports on revenues, investments, and the operating budget. All of these are performing well to their respective estimates. Looking ahead, the Finance Committee is also the authority's audit committee. And as such, I will be having the required conversation with our audit partner, Mr. Garber from PB Mayors. If any authority member has any particular concerns, please contact me to discuss them. The audit work has already started and will continue into the early fall. Mr. Long, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Anything on the investment portfolio, monthly revenue, operating budget, I think you kind of covered.
Yes, the mayor said they're all, I agree.
PPC,
Thank you, Madam Chair. You have our report of our May 6th meeting. And we covered most of these items on our agenda tonight. So, let's see if questions. Meeting end.
for the TAC, we have those in our package as well. And for the PCAC, we have those in our package as well. Right. Are you going to talk about PCAC?
I do not.
Okay. And then your comments, Ms. Beck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a few things I would like to know. We want to announce the save the dates for 2 events for NVTA coming up in October. We do have our 9th annual roundtable, which is jointly hosted by ITS, Intelligent Transportation Society, and the Authority. That will be Wednesday, October 9th, 8:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. here on the 6th floor in our new space. I don't know if any of you paid attention to it coming into the building, but the building permits for them to do the work on our space, and it's posted, so we are moving. And then the other event in October, and this is for October 30th. This will be an inaugural event for us, and it's the State of the Region's Transportation. That will be Wednesday, October 30th, here in our new office suite from 8:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. And again, you will hear more information about that. Don't worry about writing it down tonight, because we will inundate you with reminders. Additionally, because Keith noted, and they noted earlier, the survey has been extended. The survey has been extended to June 23rd. So please, 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 if you could help share that information. I do want to know 2 more things. Next month at your July meeting, we will ask the authority to adopt the funding program. Right now, you have the Technical Advisory Committee and the Planning Coordination Advisory Committee scheduled to meet on the same night to make their recommendations. And then on June 25th, the Planning and Programming Committee will meet, chaired by Mayor Wilson, and make their recommendation. We are legally required to post the recommendation of the Planning and Programming Committee 10 days before authority action. So next month, we will ask you to adopt the funding program. I do want to know we have a new planner. Her name is Kristen, seated in the back. Kristen, say hello. So we are glad to have her join us. And then lastly, and Madam Chair, I don't want to steal your thunder, but this is Ms. Hines, as she noted, this we anticipate will be her last meeting here with us.
They've been they've been very quick to.
So that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
So thank you. So before I give some time to Ms. Hines to speak a little bit, I do want to say that we do have 2 other members who are here for the first time, correct? So Delegate Delaney and Delegate Torian are both joining us today for the first time. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves. Now, before they do that, I do believe Delegate Delaney, is your entire district in Fairfax?
The new district, yes.
In Fairfax, and Delegate Torian is Prince William County. So I just want to note how much Prince William County and Fairfax is in this room versus Loudoun County. So I'm holding this down on myself over here in Loudoun County, because we got a lot of Prince William County in this room. We got a good Loudoun County, Fairfax County in this room, and now we've added two people. So Alexander Arlington.
You want to open up that conversation? Not, while I'm saying.
But welcome, and I will let you, and first, I'll come to you just in just a second, Mr. Jordan, but Mr. Laney, I'll come to you, introduce yourself, say anything you want to say.
I think that, Chair, and I will say in the new maps that have been drawn, I am completely Fairfax, but up until just this last year, I have represented part of Glamis, so part of my heart. will always
Very good.
be- But we can blame redistricting. I'm Carrie Delaney. I was elected in 2017, so I just finished my 7th session down in Richmond. And this past session, I had the honor of being appointed to be the chair of the House Transportation Committee, which is really exciting honor and opportunity. So I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to represent our region on that committee, and certainly look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Jordan, you still there, sir?
Yes, I am. Thank you so very much to the committee and Madam Chair for allowing me to join you all this evening. I'm joining you remotely. I'm out of the Commonwealth for a few days, but this evening's meeting has been very insightful to me, and I appreciate it. By way of the General Assembly, this is my 15th year as delegate in the House, and I currently serve the 24th House District in Prince William County, and I chair the House Appropriations Committee, which engages a lot of work, but we're having a great deal of fun with that, and thank you for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. We look forward for you to come back and the Commonwealth, and look forward to you joining us in person at the meetings. So I do want to just talk a little bit. I'm going to give it to Ms. Hines to have the last word. But I want to say first, your gift is stuck in FedEx. So just know that what we're about to give is not this is just a stand-in gift. If you have a gift, it's stuck in FedEx. But I will say that, speaking personally, and I think thinking for a lot of people, you have taught us so much. And you've been a champion for the things that you believe in, the transit and other things. I also think you've been a champion for regionalism and for collaborative nature, every single time. I learned a lot from you. I'm gonna miss you. I know that you're gonna be like, I'm out, and I understand that. And you have a whole life that you might want to get to. But between this and your stint as an elected official, you've been serving a long time. And you know, sometimes people don't always understand what service looks like, but you certainly have, and service looks like exactly what you've been doing for a very long time. And we appreciate you so much. We're going to miss you, and it's been so valuable having you here. we're gonna give you a t-shirt, but this is the standing gift. Because, yay, let's have a trendy t-shirt. Fast,
frequent, and reliable.
All right. You are fast and reliable. I don't know about your frequency. But definitely fast and reliable. But we're gonna miss you very much, and you have to come back to get your career. And I will give you the last words.
Well, thanks. You're right. This is 28 years of service to the Commonwealth in one way or another. I started out as a school board member for 12 years, spent 8 years on the county board, and now 8 on the CTV. Each one of those perches allowed me to learn different things, to meet different people, to revel in the glory of our region, because we have a glorious region with many challenges, but many, many opportunities. And we are so blessed because there's so many people here who are all trying to go in the same direction. And that's really, it is what makes doing this work enjoyable, because there's lots of things about it that are, you stay up too late, you argue with people, you're trying to figure out the middle way. It's not always easy. But I can honestly say this group's been a lot of fun. I'm almost 10 years, I think. I was trying to figure it out. I think I'm 6 months short of 10 years on this group, because I had a 6-month break after I left the county board. Chairman called for appointment. So I've been 10 years with this group and I've seen a tremendous amount of growth. What happened at the state level, under Aubrey Lane and then continuing with Shannon Valentine, was remarkable. And we never lose sight of the fact that Virginia has been leading the country in how we approach P3s, in how we do accountability, in how we decide how to spend money. And it happens here and it happens at the state. And that, to take that big partisan politics out of transportation spending and say, this is about serving people. And how do we move people? And how do we understand what's needed up here versus what's needed in far southwest, and build a system that can solve for both of those? We are so low, but we have to protect it. And that's my main message as I'm leaving, is all the work that's happened in these last 10 years or so, it's worthy of protection. It is a good system. It's not, but it does more to deliver more options, reliable, usable options to our residents than what anybody's doing anywhere else in this country. So please, please shepherd it, please protect it. Don't let the expedient, I need to fix this tomorrow, get in the way of the long view and the conversation like we just had about I remember that Woodrow Wilson fight too. That was a fight, we got the space, but to say we're never going to use it until we can have the perfect is to not serve our residents. Jeff, you said that so I don't know who's going to replace me. I have no clues. I don't think I'll know when I come home on Tuesday, which is the last meeting down there. But I fully expect that you will see that appointment before July 1st. And so I've told Bill, I've told people at VDOT, I am happy to help whoever comes into this role. This job is really complicated. There's a lot to do. And I'm still gonna live at 1503 North Highland Street. And my phone number is not changing. So if you need me, you can call me, but I don't want to have an official approach anymore. But I have so enjoyed working with each of you. It's really been a pleasure. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Ms. Eisman. Thank you. That's we are adjourned.
The Metro response letter has been sent.
Yes.
We got it. We got it. We got it.